Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another day here at the Kentucky Atheist. We're going to start calling this show the Greater to Know God's Grateful to Know God's broadcast. I'll get it right eventually. You would think I would practice saying that at least once.
Yeah. Grateful
um,
to know God's podcast. Let's go. We're here. We're
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. So, as you can see today, I got Jay Bundy here. I've been waiting a while on this and excited to have you on. How you doing today,
Same,
Jay?
same, same, Joe. Good to be here, man. I love your channel, and I think there's a lot of overlap between the people that watch and the people we care about and hang out with. So it's cool to be here.
Yeah, and that's one of and just to kiss your ass for a second, like that,
Oh,
that's like one of my I have a lot of respect for you because number one,
oh,
it's
thank you.
it's it's your profession is what helped me get away from young Earth creationism.
Oh,
I
okay,
was
yeah,
raised
yeah.
in that, and so it was through good professors and stuff that helped me to part from that stuff. So that's awesome. I love that you do that stuff. And then also like you've been a voice for a lot of people in the community and for all people really.
Thanks, thanks. I
And
really appreciate that.
yeah, no, I love what you do, and the whole thing over on Gather has became a thing, right? Like there's
Yeah,
always people
yeah,
hanging out.
yeah. We're always trying to keep it going, man. We've been out there for a while. Shout out to the Gather Gang, man. And it's. I remember starting it and kind of growing and just I'm just so grateful to all the people that have like helped me keep it going long enough that new people are finding it and coming in. And yeah, it's really awesome. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. I think in a way. Um, in a sense, it took me away from social media and YouTube in a sense because um, it's just really nice to have sort of I say offline, but like a not live space, right? Because that was really the motivation was really just this idea that like we used to call it like the atheist bar hop. It was just the idea that like people would get into the routine of kind of realizing when there's overlap between channels that you had friends and you could like interact with them in a stream, and then a lot of times you would kind of be like, well, what's next, or oh, is somebody else going to be live or whatever. um but it sucked because a lot of times just nobody was live, right?
Yeah.
And so then you really couldn't congregate. The bars closed. I actually made an academic presentation about it. And then another thing is we didn't really have control of the company we keep, like in the sense that there's sometimes I think we found ourselves in a lot of spaces we probably didn't really want to be in, but it was like, oh, we're all subscribed to this channel. There's really nothing else live right now. So you end up, what I'm saying? Like in some streams you probably don't even really want to hang out in just because you want to be with your friends or whatever. So, it's just helped us kind of solve that problem and just have a place to hang and share things with each other and game and do a lot of other things that kind of allow us to bond. So, but yeah, there's a lot of time that I would have been doing crazy long streams and stuff just to be around the community.
Well, like whenever I first came to Gather, it was on not not such great terms. The they're not bad that I was coming there. It's just the whole reason that I was asked to come join the thing on Gather was because of some drama shit that went down, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
and and so it was like,
yeah.
hey Joe, why don't you come and Gather and explain to us what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
and but
Um,
but I love that. Like it's the people that we are friends with, like we have a lot of mutual friends, and we go there and hang out. And like I talk to Steph in there all the time, and you and Maya and Bree, and I mean, just a lot of people that hang out there that we run in the same circles, and like to talk to each other without having to be on a live stream somewhere doing it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that was a really good function was, a lot of us are comfortable being live and we're streamers and it's kind of all good, but there are conversations, especially amongst friends, that you really probably shouldn't have in public, or this is a public broadcast. It's going to be here in perpetuity, and it's not a safe space, right?
Right.
And it's a show essentially. And so I think, and I like to bring these things up because for people that are listening, I think these are things I would like them to think about, to maybe encourage them to do some of these other things. And it may not even be gather, it might be something like joining a Discord or whatever, but just thinking about advantages what the advantages are of engaging with the community in other spaces, right? That are not lives. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it was actually a courtesy, because it was like, let's talk about this without having it be like while you're live, explain, these things that
Yeah,
may not be
yeah.
so easy to get into, and you don't want to.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can talk about things that go on and stuff without necessarily, well, without getting other people worked up or hurting someone's feelings,
Exactly.
or whatever, And it's not just I mean, it very much is a social thing, but it's not just that. It's like a tool that we can use to make our content better and the community better, and cooperate with each other, and it's really handy. So yeah. Um, I didn't even know about it until then. So
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad you found it, man, one way or the other. So
What am I,
definitely.
chopped liver? No, no, Robin. I just guess that everybody knows that I'm always saying that I love you, Robin. You're my number one, Robin. You always will be. The um
Hey, Robin.
yeah. Uh Blessed be he asked a question a second ago. Is this is this the dude that debated Kent Hovind?
Yeah, I debated Ken Hovind and Michael Behe. Yeah, those are questionable life decisions that I have indeed made.
Well, for here going forward, your debate with Michael Behe will go down for me as one of the most wonderful debates I've ever watched.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that one.
It was, and I mean, that's whenever we come into the atheist community, a lot of times that's how we end up getting exposed to it. Is we see like the line or the atheist experience arguing with people. We see the debates, modern day debates. It used to be the non sequitur show. Um, the and I hate that I even dropped their name here now, but the now it's like the because those debates that I hold like that is like Christopher Hitchens and Stephen Fry versus the Catholic Church. Like it's
Yeah.
in that list
No,
of debates
yeah.
for me.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's crazy.
So yeah. Well, I mean, Michael Behe has been someone who's worked with the Discovery Institute and um, been around for a minute. He's done work for the Discovery Institute, I'll say anyway, but he's been around for quite a while, and he has a book, as he reminded you several times.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
he's one of those voices that people turn to all the time, and just to see him take the ass kicking that he deserved was great for me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't, I have genuine, sort of personal animosity for those people. And I do see it as um a dirty part of science. It's like there are people who are actively working against the research we do and the things that we're trying to teach and get people to understand. And these are the people that are responsible for it. And yeah, I think every once in a while they need to be, taken out back and let know what's up. Because like just there was a story the other day in one of my streams where one of the partners of somebody that was in the chat is an evolutionary biologist, and the story was that they mentioned human evolution, and 6 students walked out of the room. So this is real. Like you lie to these people, you brainwash them. A lot of these people are already heavily indoctrinated, um, and these people take advantage of them, and then you know it, they actively resist education, and that's one of those things where, and this kind of gets into sort of where I'm at with a lot of things. I'm just at enough is enough. Like I'm just kind of fed up. I'm kind of tired of playing the game with religious people, especially because I think we're in a time where even most of them recognize the harm or have a certain disdain for other religious practices. And then, especially say like most Christians in the United States of America, they even are very well aware of the harms done in other Christian denominations and churches and all that stuff. So we're all on the same page about a lot of the issues. It's just that there's so many people that are still holding on to their particular whatever their particular beliefs are. But for me, it's and this again, let's have an interesting conversation if we're gonna have a conversation. In a sense,
Sure.
right? Like I don't know if you heard me say this before, but I'm not a person who is in any meaningful way against religious liberty, right? Like I don't actually think I'd put much effort into, say, supporting laws that made it illegal to go to church or whatever like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I do, when I hear certain things now, I almost have a different perspective when you hear about, like, say, governments throughout history that try to restrict or limit religious practice. And more so I think that's like a really controversial thing, right? Because I know that we have this like super liberal, let people do whatever they want with religion, but I'm like, but from a societal perspective, you do have an interest in like not letting religion run amok, especially
Yeah.
because in many senses, it's, if you take it seriously, it's sort of can easily threaten the social order, right? The notion of a higher power, a higher lawgiver, a lot of this stuff, like that's actually not, that's not stuff that, when you're in the business of like, running a civil society, that's necessarily a good thing. But I do think we're certainly at a point where, when we see so much harm being done in the name of religion, and we can't demonstrate it to be true, we're
Yeah.
doing a disservice by not making that a significant public issue. It's at the point where it's just like, it's something that needs to be part of our discourse.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I think that whenever so religion has this thing of freedom of religion, right? But whenever we said freedom of religion, and you can pretty much do whatever, you don't have to pay taxes, you can you we're not going to get involved, is what the government essentially said. And
right,
then it became necessary for freedom from religion too,
right,
because that religion running amok thing you talked about has been damaging in a lot of ways. And now it's like, well, you can't tell me that I can't teach my kids that the earth is only 6,000 years old, because
right,
that's my
right,
personal belief. And it's like, yeah, but you're stifling a whole generation. Like you're doing real damage at this point. And yeah, so I agree with you totally on that. I think that people, I use the words that Stephanie Helms uses, and
Well,
I
that's not a
attribute
bad
this to
source.
her. Yeah, I attribute this to her all the time. It doesn't start with the F word either. Um, uh, she says it doesn't matter to me what you believe. It matters what you do. And the thing is that religion has gotten to this place in many areas where it's not that people believe. I could care less who believes what. Like, that's cool. I'm not convinced that's true. That's it. That's all. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's what they do with it at that point. They want to put it in
yeah,
schools. They want to force it on all these people in all these different ways. We've got Louisiana putting Bibles in schools now. The That kind of stuff, just it's detrimental. It's counterproductive to the goal, right? And they see science as this enemy of theirs, and science is just there saying, we looked at it, and this is what we found. Like, it's not.
yeah. But here's the thing that's very interesting to me, and this is something I struggle with because I think even as scientists, we've kind of missed the mark, and we've missed the mark almost by so far that it's hard to correct for it because it's very risky to do so. But I think as scientists, we failed to tell people, yeah, part of this amazing process that's brought us, modern medicine and the ability to stream, across the world on a Sunday afternoon. It it it, it has made it so that we do now see that apparently these beliefs are false.
Yeah,
And there's a way in which even I think we failed in a sense of compassion to believers. So one of the things I say again that people is sort of time for a chance for your audience to get to know me. So maybe some things I'll say that my audience has probably heard, but like um, in a sense, I kind of side with fundamentalists when it comes to some of these issues because like I realize that when a fundamentalist rejects evolution because um, they're in a sense being sincere about what they claim to believe. Like they're saying, no, according to my book, God created the world in 6 days. Maybe X amount of so that young Earth model. They're saying that's what the Bible really says. That's the whole thing, right? And if evolution is real, then that's not true.
yeah,
And what most of us do is we start doing backflips and it was, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. You can accommodate it. You can believe this and believe that. And we're doing all these mental tricks. And they go, no, 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 I'm reading this, and then I'm hearing what you say over here. And these things can't both be true, right? And so we even, I think, to them should be sincere, like, yeah, you're probably right. These two things can't both be true. But unfortunately, we know this is.
right.
There's no debating that anymore. That's not a debate. That's not I'm always telling people there's the theory of evolution and there's the fact of evolution. And what people get confused is Christians focus on the theory of evolution because they think that they can safely reject theories. Um, but I do think that like we owe people that honesty. It's not, and here's the thing, and this will tie to the other thing, because when I talk about the bigger sort of, I think of like public meta infrastructure getting involved in, is it normalizes it for the rest of us. The problem right now is just by trying to be like, hey, that stuff with that crazy stuff in the Bible doesn't really make sense. And like, I'm sorry, evolution's true, but like, you come across as like this radical person. You're trying to like tear down people's faith and you're mean and leave them alone and all this type of stuff. Whereas if it was part of a larger conversation, it'd be something that comes up once in a while on The View, or something you hear them, they're talking about the Christian nationalists on whatever, MSNBC or whatever, right? And they're talking about how, yeah, it's really problematic that, a lot of what these people claim to believe is just simply not true. And then when you had the conversation with people in your family, it'd be a totally different conversation. It might even be, like I said, it might even be a conversation they bring up with you instead of you having to bring it up with them. And so I know it sounds crazy, but I do think the mainstream media, in a sense, and the mainstream news, and sort of just these bigger outlets that I don't really think take seriously the responsibility they have in sort of putting parameters around the Overton window, like deciding like what's even acceptable, normal, public discourse. And of course, it's really problematic because a lot of these things are driven by financial and corporate interest, and the sort of a lot of the power structure in business has always been conservative. And beyond that, since we're having this conversation, it's actually quite Christian. I don't think people realize this, but if you work in corporate America, there's a certain, my mom's a corporate executive. She always talk about performance image exposure. There's a way in which your image, performance is just like how you do your job, right? Image is how people see you, how you present yourself. And exposure is like the opportunities you get. Like, who are you in front of? Who are you in the room with? Are you invited to play golf when they do the company retreat? Are you important? Like, are you invited to the big meetings? That type of thing, right? Because you're not going anywhere if these things are not happening for you. And these things are all tied together. And so a big part of image is sort of having an image that fits in, that looks like what the company wants to see, right? And so there's stories in corporate, sort of corporate education about, even like, if everybody wears a white shirt to the office and you're the one person who wears a blue shirt, you seem like you're trying to stand out. Like, you're not, like, why don't you want to be like us, right? And if that interacts in any way with intersectionality, like if that's you, like if you dress different, but then you're also a woman, or you're Black, or you're LGBTQ, right? And you might some other way be different, then those things, it now takes on even another level of meaning potentially. So imagine wearing a hijab, or eating different ethnic foods, or having different needs. Oh, I have to go pray or whatever, right? It's not even that there's a rule that says you can't do those things. No, the rules are exactly the opposite. The rules say we can't discriminate based on religion, so wear your hijab. And the rules say we got to let you take a break 3 times a day so you can go pray. But the image is you now have a very different image than everybody else. But if you're walking around in a 2-3-piece suit, and you've got your cross pendant on, well, probably 60% of the people that work here have a cross pendant on.
Yeah.
Right. And so Christianity becomes the unofficial thing. And then the conversation around the water coolers is often about, oh, what did you go to? Oh, I went to church, and then we did blah, 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 blah. And every time they talk about, who we're going to put up for motion, or how we review people, oh, so-and-so is a good God-fearing leader, and all this type of stuff. Right. So that's there. So that is what's going on in the world of money behind what goes on in the world of what's in the news, what's in the newspaper, and this is a real problem. This is why, actually, and it ties back to the election, this is why we need to focus a lot more of our energy on changing things off cycle, like on not during presidential years. And a big part of that, I think, 2 things. One, changing our election systems, but starting at the local level, because it's much easier. and then getting money out of politics. Like, because this is just, we just can't keep doing this corporate buyout, whatever thing we're doing now. Like this oligarchy that we're headed towards is just, we're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's it's weird because since I started live streaming and got to know a lot of members of the atheist community, I've learned, so many things about so many different people, and things that I didn't know that affect whole groups of people. And so whenever I started doing a political show on my channel, it was because these are things that we need to talk about all the time. Yeah. And I don't plan to stop that show when the election ends. It's not just,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that there is a tie into those things. And while my channel is the Kentucky Atheist, and you would think that I'm just here debunking, stupid shit that Christians say all the time. Like that's
Right.
I'm really past that. I don't care. Like if you're going and publicly misinforming people, I will correct those bad ideas. But like I'm more interested in the community itself, because so many of us have been down this same road. We've been affected by the things that religion does, and we have trauma from it. We have just all kinds of things. We're angry, and everything in between. And it seems like that it's necessary to talk about, not necessarily talk about being an atheist, but being an atheist talking about those other things that matter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's an important distinction. Yeah. And so one of the things that's been a real struggle for me is I have been on what I call like push the button mode. Like I think like I just, it gets to a point where you want to look Christianity in the face and say, this is not true. And I'm now willing to tell other people that. And it's like for me, it was a commitment to the idea that it's not just about I don't believe. It's about saying I don't believe and I think religion's a problem, and I intend to contribute to solving the problem. And I
Yeah,
can't
very much.
solve the problem if I can't name the problem, right? And so that was a shift for me. And but over time, I have tried to release some of the personal animosity towards believers, especially the ones in my own life, probably just as a survival mechanism, um, and trying to get beyond the personal, right, the interpersonal. Um, but so where I'm at now is it has been about focusing on what people do, and I've been even trying to talk to believers about how their belief works, and it's just like, oh yeah, what they believe drives what they do,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like so hard to get away from that. um but I do think it's a different way to go about it. Like, instead of sort of talking about like why I don't believe something, or trying to just say something stupid, I'm just sort of going, well, how does that work? And because people are very different, and how their faith actually works in their life. Like, are they a personal relationship person? Do they pray to Jesus? Do they talk to Jesus? Does Jesus help them find their car keys? Does Jesus tell them, where they need to move, or what next career choice to do? Um I find that people have wildly different answers, right? I know a lot of Jesus found my car keys people, straight up. Like, I've watched them, like, I've watched a person leaving their house, like stick the key in the doorknob, run around, grab a couple things, forget where they put the key, go back in the house to look for the key, find the key in the door on the way back in, get into the car and go, look how God works.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. Okay, so Jesus found my car keys. Okay, and it's not. I'm not throwing shade at that. I'm just saying that's that person's reality. That's how God works in their life, right?
Yeah.
I know other people who like have, come right out of college, moved to a different part of the country, tossed whatever career thoughts or ambitions they had aside, and just decided I'm gonna plant a church, and try to like work for God's kingdom and dedicate my life to it. And for me, it's like, how did that happen? And for me, it's like there was clearly an organization that does this, that actively recruits young people. There's like a corporation. They plant churches all over the place. They send the leaders of those churches to like, recruit people from other churches and come on trips and all this stuff. There's nothing magical about this. It's literally it's like a multi-level marketing scheme for Jesus. It's like Cutco knives, but for church plants. But the people who do this, they interpret it as it was a total God thing. God orchestrated this. I was lost, didn't know what to do with my life at the time. God spoke to me. Boom, I'm here. It's okay. That's how God's working in this person's life. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think whenever you play that to some of its extremes, it gets kind of sickening. Like, one of the things that just every time I see something about it that drives me nuts is when 9/11 happened, there was like the building was made out of these cross beams, and there was a beam standing that was in the shape of a cross because that's what it was made of.
Oh,
And they say,
oh,
well, God, look what God did. And it's like, yeah, why did 3,000 people have to die for God to put a cross out there? Like, this is the weirdest type of rationalization. And in stuff like that, it seems really disrespectful and like just gross. I mean,
in a sense, like, this is weird. I don't find a lot of sincere believers who are serious about it. Like, most of the people I think that believe you're sort of, I call them run of the mill Christians or whatever. Um, they just they don't hear themselves when they say things like that. They just don't take it seriously. Like, they're not even thinking about it. They're not even aware. And even like the monstrosities in the Bible, they have no clue about. It's terrible. And then it's almost like there's this weird valley that you have to get through if you're going to stay committed to the faith, um stay committed to the faith and become aware and become educated. If you're going to be the type of Christian who's read the Bible in its entirety, or does so every year, or you engage in conversations and you're aware of these arguments and things like that, there's a hardening that happens. And so then you got to be this other type of Christian who's like resistant, right? Because you know about slavery in the Bible and you've got a justification, an argument for it, right? And you're willing to say, yeah, I know that, these terrible things happen, but I'm gonna look you straight in the face and say it's part of God's plan, right? Like,
yeah,
so like there's and I think that's why there's not a ton of people in the middle. There's like the soft and fluffies who Jesus loves them and makes sure good things happen to them, and they don't take things seriously. They don't think about it too much. And then, if you're gonna start thinking about it and taking it seriously, there's a hardening that has to happen, and then you come out on the other side as a total weirdo.
yeah, yeah. There's well, that's like I don't do a lot of trying to argue or even really have conversations about religion with many theists, because I find it's like a pointless endeavor for me. And especially whenever it comes, like I can talk about evolution pretty well, I think, but I would
It
never
sounds
try to
like,
pass myself off as an expert in the field of that. So I find myself in a position to where it's like, yeah, I don't really want to do that, because I don't want to have to go and say, like, I can give sources, I understand that, but like it's it just gets to the point, it's like, okay, there's expert people out here that do this, so I'm going to let them do that. I'm going to let them go out there and do these things. I don't care to talk about it or whatever, in like, I've seen this thing and let's talk about this, and learned this neat thing about evolution today, or whatever. But like, as far as just engaging and arguing about it, it's one of those, for me to do it anyway, is just like, it's doesn't seem like the right direction to be going. And where I've became friends with so many people throughout this community, it's like there's a better way, that there's better things that I can do. And so those religious people that end up like, they get worse and worse. I mean, we've had one in the chat here today just posting, like, obsessively posting, prove evolution to me, and it's like, why? You're not going to listen? Like,
yes, yes. Matter of fact, I tried to get that. I tried to kind of wiggle out of this with somebody in my life recently who's like doesn't believe in evolution, but kind of wanted to was doing the whole prove it to me thing. And I realized at some point I was like, no, I don't like I don't I kind of don't want to, because I feel like I already know you're gonna, well, this is an artist recreation. They don't really know, and I don't even want to. I don't even want to be bothered with that. I don't want to be bothered, and I feel like the evidence is so good. If you cared to know it, you would.
yeah,
And if it really is about, and again, this comes back. This is why sometimes I'm like trying to sympathetic to the creationists. It's like, if it really comes down to, if you understood and accepted evolution, you would no longer be able to believe in God, and you're currently not willing or ready to do that, don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. Like, I don't even want to do that. If look, I teach evolution in the biology class. You know I do that because the students signed up to take my class. You understand? So I realized that, like, that, I hate that. I trust me, I wish I could force education down everyone's throat, but there's a lot wrong with that, right? So
yeah,
instead, I educate the people who pay my salary to teach them what they signed up to be taught. And I do, certainly think the evidence is there, but it just feels like, if somebody's not ready, if they're saying this would challenge my faith and I'm not ready for that, like, you're not ready. I don't want to force that on you, right? Like,
yeah,
that just feels like I'm violating your autonomy in a way.
yeah. I mean, there are people who I've talked to that are theists that'll say, like, well, how does evolution explain this thing? And it's like, okay, that's a question. I'm for that.
Yeah, I'm game to
Like,
answer your question. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, but then there's the other, like, that says, well, it's clear that God did it, and I demand that you prove this to my liking. And when they know that there's no bar to be met there, it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. It's a made up thing. and
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, it's frustrating as hell. And you're right, you can't force people who go around saying bad things, like, no, okay, we're sending you to class, you've got to go learn this thing now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as much as that would, make many aspects of the world better,
Yes.
you don't want to, like, and again, it's never about telling somebody, like, you shouldn't believe this or anything like that. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter, that's not the point. It's like, just let's accept the world we live in, though. Let's accept the things that we observe and see, and like this mistrust of science, and the just complete misrepresentation of what science says about things and stuff. It gets back into that. It's like, okay, either you don't know what the hell you're talking about and you shouldn't be saying that, or you're being completely dishonest, because it's like those are the only two choices there. There's not, whenever you go around saying evolution is fake and we all came from two people, like when you go and say that, there's only a couple of choices. You're either talking out your ass or you're being dishonest, because
Yeah.
there's plenty of evidence there to show you that it is true if you're willing to look. And for me, it was like being raised as a creationist, and then whenever the first thing that hit me was like genetics, DNA, similarities between humans, chimps, bonobos, and I was like, well, that's weird, like that's an odd thing that I just learned, and so I went and checked it like two or three different places, and then I didn't go looking to say, well, hell with religion. It was like I went looking for reasons how I could still make it work.
Me
Like
too.
maybe we
Yeah,
don't
me too.
understand, and
Yeah.
maybe humans are fallible and we're just reading the Bible wrong, and this and that, all that shit that they say. And for me though, I couldn't get, like, once I went on that journey and started learning things, and um, how the universe works and evolution works, and those things, I was like, you know what? I remember reading the quote that when asked why the scientists didn't think that a god did it, they said there's no need for that hypothesis. And
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like perfect. Like, so then, I started saying, well, why do we need a god to explain that? Like, why, where does it come in at? Because I can't sit and say these things that I've learned, that I've went and I know are true. Like, I've looked at the evidence and I accept that they are true. I can't then continue to carry on with that other thing. And I think that that's why they have to demonize science and stuff, because they can't, if they accept it, then they would rather deny every branch of science and every bit of evidence and everything out there. Because when you say evolution isn't true, it's not just the evolutionary biologist you're shitting on. I mean, you're going against genetics. You're going against all of biology pretty much.
Yeah, you're going against
Um,
geology. Yep.
yeah, all these things that you have to deny in order to carry that. And I just wasn't ready to be that dissonant, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't in me.
and that's again a thing that I think we haven't been honest about. People have not been honest about the fact that I think in this day the entire religious endeavor is inherently anti-science. And I also think the entire religious endeavor is a lie. It is in a sense, I don't want to say a special class of lie, um, because it's just a regular lie, but it's a particular type of lie. And I think that's how most people are. First off, if you were to accept what we have evidence for and what we all sort of experience, you wouldn't need faith to do that. You need faith, right, to assert that what we can't possibly see or observe is true. And since we can't possibly see or observe it, meaning you haven't possibly seen or observed it, you're already lying. You're already saying that something is true that you can't know is true. And then the other, and so people need to recognize that. Like, we sort of recognize I know the Cowboys beat the Patriots yesterday, but I'm going to tell you the Patriots beat the Cowboys. That's a lie. I knew, I had the information, I knew it, and then I told you something else.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's also a form of dishonesty, we would consider it, when I tell you the Cowboys beat the Patriots and I didn't check the score.
Yeah.
Right. And we sometimes recognize what people call a lie by omission, right? You just don't say something, right? But I think there's sort of a a dishonesty
Pretending to know
via
things you don't know.
yeah, pretending to know things you don't know. But then also beyond that, what I think religious people are guilty of is a dishonesty of due diligence. There is a certain regular bar of you should have checked that and you didn't. And now you're blowing past that. You could Google how old is the earth, it'll tell you. You know what I mean? You could Google how old is the universe. You could Google where do people come from. You could Google is evolution true. You could do any of these things. You won't, or you reject what you get, and then you go pretend something else. So there really is a way in which that's what it's about. It's about lying, and so really there needs to be a broader conversation about the value of faith, which is really that faith is not what I consider a modern virtue. It is something that modern people still consider a virtue by way of traditions that have been passed down to them. But people who are concerned with like a 2024 meta view of the world recognize that we can't solve problems together based on faith. So it's probably best left out of our toolkit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. I agree with what you're getting out there. The for me, and you know, I'm a little more brash about things, so I will say, you know, I'll say faith is just dishonest. Like faith itself. There is the indoctrinated, and I get that some people are indoctrinated and just don't know any better. But that doesn't mean the practice isn't still a practice in dishonesty, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
like even if you don't know it, that doesn't mean that it's not a dishonest thing. And
Yes,
sometimes,
exactly. Yes.
especially if you don't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of exactly what I'm getting at. And I don't think people realize that. And that's an uncomfortable conversation to have with a person. So we generally tend to just give religion a pass, you know, especially if we perceive that the person is not, you know, if they're a good person or they're sincere or whatever. But I have I wish I could do that sometimes, smacking Bibles out of people's hands. I need a video of me doing this. Yeah, like Maya distracted me. Now I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry.
It's all good.
It was too good to not show.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, like, so you know, I feel like we're me and you are on the same page with a lot of that. I think, and a lot of atheists view it differently, but I think there's a growing group that view it that way, and the thing is that then like you end up with atheists who like if you're gonna stick a worldview, which I hate that word, but
Sure,
like if you're gonna
sure.
stick that on someone, then you end up like with the humanist perspective, and it's hard to not like. I don't understand. I mean, I would find it hard to become an atheist and not end up like feeling that way about it, like especially someone that speaks out about it.
Sure.
But um, and so I see that that's you know that you do a lot of stuff that's you're advocates for a lot of different things, and see you on Skeptic Havens a lot, talking about Black non-believers,
Yeah, yeah.
and the stream you and Maya did the other night was just great.
Oh
But
yeah, that was craziness. That was some wild dude. I had no idea. My mind was blown. That was crazy. I'm trying to find some other stuff about those people. One thing that I think has been sort of dawning on me is the feeling that a lot of this is racially charged. So due to some of the stuff I've been doing with Michael Beverly, I've been thinking about for instance, the fact that like so much of even the rhetoric of Christianity is very it's like slave rhetoric, right? Belonging to God, being set apart for his purpose, and your life is not your own, but completely devoted to him. It just that type of rhetoric now as a Black person makes my skin crawl, right? And it's sort of alarming to me to see white people play at that idea like it's cute, and then overlooking the fact that there was a comment on the video from Michael Beverly's yesterday that was that their minds have been colonized. And so I feel a lot of what goes on in the community is like people in, like sort of the majority group don't seem to care about how these lies you told people, especially the lies you told enslaved people,
Yeah.
is still what dominates their identity. And it really bits me because one of the things I want to tell believers of color is they still have you in a mental plantation. They used to say stuff like the best place to hide things from Black people is in a book. And a lot of that was, the joke of Black people are stupid and uninterested in education. And certainly there was so much of our history where Black people just could not be educated, at least not legally. And now we're in a different space where we certainly still have a ton of educational inequity to overcome. But part of it is there are so many people of color who are just not interested in things. And so that's a easy, they no longer have to say, you can't study this field or you can't study that field. It's just that as a believer, you're not going to be interested because there's this sort of inherent resistance to go anywhere near anything that might threaten your faith. I remember when I was in grad school, I went to visit my mom and we were sitting down and we were watching some like special on TV, Discovery Channel, something, whatever it was. And they were talking, it was like a space thing. And there was a Black woman who like worked for NASA and she was just talking about, what she did or whatever's going on. And I remember my mom saying, she did well for herself, like in corporate America for like her career, but she always kind of wished that she could do something that was driven by like an interest or passion. And she was saying that she thought what I was doing was cool because it was driven by, what was intellectually, interesting or important to me. And I remember just kind of like taking that and, just kind of having a moment with her. But I remember thinking to myself, there was no way in hell. There's no way in hell because of her parents being ministers and her parents being fundamentalist Pentecostals, the way, like how strict they were, there was no way. There's no chance they would have ever encouraged her to be interested in science or anything like that in a meaningful way. And it made me sad. It made me sad. And I just think that that is still the thing for so many people.
Yeah, no, and I think so too. I think that there's just as because so like just as racism has been baked into a lot of our laws and policies and things in the United States, the religion kind of got whitewashed along the way, and it was kind of like modern religion isn't the same as ancient religion, right? Like, and a lot of those ideals and stuff were included and used at great lengths to be racist and bigoted and those things. And it's if there's one thing that for the atheist community especially, like if there's one thing that should tell you how wrong racism is, it's because the Bible's all for it. Like,
Yeah.
just because Christianity is all about it, you should know it's probably the wrong position to hold. Like, but many other reasons. I'm just saying that one of them.
Yeah.
But so I'm always excited to see like people who stand up for minority or marginalized groups. Like it's 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 good to see that the atheist community isn't just the atheist community. You know, it's all these communities together, and it educates everybody to be able to treat people like people. You know, like to not worry about those other things. It's not and our through religion and our education system and our government and all those things, like it's been something that's made to be seen like it's okay and to tell those kind of jokes and stuff. Like I grew up in Eastern Kentucky. I had teachers that used racist language in class in front of the
Wow.
classroom. Like
Wow.
it, it,
Wow.
I played football through high school. They There was a place called the Rainy East Step Home, and it was like it was a boys' home, and our
Okay.
football coaches would go get a couple of black boys from the Rainy East Step Home because there weren't any at our school really, and the way that they would talk to them on the football field and some of the things they would say, and it was just like,
Oh my goodness, really?
yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
this is in 2000 2001. I mean,
Right,
like,
right.
and so and I agree, things have gotten better in a lot of places. Things have gotten better here as far as that goes. People are learning. Having a world of information at your fingertips is working to some
Right.
extent,
Right.
but there's still a lot to do. And just because things are good in other places, or people aren't spreading creationism within Christianity or racism in this area or whatever, doesn't mean that people should turn a blind eye to the places where they are, because
Absolutely.
that's how it got that way to begin with. Is it starts like that, and then it's allowed to run amok, like we talked about earlier, and build into this thing that is hurtful to not just that group, that minority group of people, that marginalized group of people, but it's hurtful to all of us. It doesn't help us get anywhere to do that. It only
Absolutely.
stifles things. And so it's like, not even just like, even if you're the most uncaring, don't give a shit about another human being person, like even if you're that, there's still all kinds of reasons why you should learn about these things and try to do better for people. Like, and it's as somebody who speaks to the atheist community and stuff and makes content, sometimes it's so like it's like it feels like such an uphill battle that it's discouraging,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No, I
but
feel that a lot.
yeah, but you get those moments in there where it's like you see things getting better and things working and stuff, and you're like, okay, more of that. So I'm always happy to see anybody that's doing stuff to help other people. I mean, like, it's include religion has been so exclusive. Let's do something that's inclusive and include everyone who wants to be there. Blessed be he's been a pain in the ass through this whole show in the chat, but I'm going to extend a courtesy that some of her people wouldn't extend me. Like, I'm not going to tell you to get out and that you're not welcome to be here and stuff. Like, um, being inclusive is how you build real communities and get people to work together. When you're exclusive, it perpetuates hate, like, because it's always that other group, those people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Definitely.
yeah. So I appreciate all those things, and we're getting time for you to get out of here. You've got a show to do yourself,
Yeah, we
but
got hot program going on at 3:30 if you guys want to come check it out. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. But and you've been an outspoken ally for the LGBTQ community too, and in
Thanks,
just
man.
the same
Appreciate
way.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um so
And you know the best thing we could do for them right now, go vote, people. Go vote.
Yeah.
Go vote. Go vote. Even better, get somebody else to vote. Even better, make some phone calls. Knock on some doors. Talk to
Go
some
pick
of your
folks up
coworkers. Yeah, every vote
and
counts.
yeah, definitely. And I'm all about that. That's the one thing I even tell people like in my stream, I don't care who you say you're for or whatever. Everybody should go vote. If everybody goes and votes, at
Yep.
least things
Yep.
will, at least you
Yep.
get what you ask for. um, the Yeah, so definitely everyone should go vote. And I've linked you in the description
Thank you
and
so much. Thank you
in the
so much. I really
title.
appreciate that.
And I will tell my hold on, I got caps lock on it, won't work.
Appreciate everybody in the chat too. I've been watching it over here. And yeah, I voted already. I got my sticker. I think everybody should just vote or vote early. Then you could just kick back and talk shit about the election the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, you can go ahead and vote now, and however you do it, just vote by the time election day gets here.
That's
Because
right. Make sure you do it.
yeah, but I really appreciate you coming on, and I've been excited for a while to talk to you. And
Me too, man. Anytime. We'll do this again for sure.
yeah, and everybody go over and is that the right one? Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
go over and watch Jay here in about 25 minutes on his channel. I'll be there in the chat.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah, come hang out. And yeah, we'll get together soon, Jay, and talk again. I look forward to it. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for everything you do too, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. So just to end the show, as always, thank you so much for everybody that came and interacted and watched the show and support the things that we do here. A big thanks to my channel members and my Patreon members. I really appreciate you guys supporting what I do here, and it goes towards trying to make this bigger and better for our community. So with that, we'll get out of here. What else? Let's see. Wednesday. So the political show this week's going to be kind of special. Wednesday. Robin has to work Thursday on Halloween, so we're going to talk about some politics, but we're going to have a Halloween special show, and we'll probably do something for the election too coming up. Not sure exactly how we're going to do that, but we're going to do something. But that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Later. Bye.